Number 1. Carol Danvers' pregnancy. In Avengers 200, Carol Danvers, known at the time as Miss Marvel, experiences an unexplained pregnancy after being manipulated by a being named Marcus. Marcus has the ability to manipulate time and reality and transports Carol to a separate dimension, where he accelerates the growth of their child to adulthood within days. Marcus later reveals that he orchestrated the entire sequence, including influencing Carol's thoughts and emotions to ensure her compliance. During this period, the other Avengers respond to the situation without questioning Marcus's actions or considering Carol's autonomy. Following Marcus's death in the alternate dimension, Carol returns to Earth, where she addresses the events directly. She explains that she had been subjected to mental manipulation and criticizes the Avengers for failing to recognize or intervene in her situation. The storyline depicts Carol's pregnancy and the actions of Marcus without fully exploring the consequences for her or acknowledging her trauma in the initial publication. Subsequent commentary within the continuity emphasizes Carol's perspective and the violation of her agency, highlighting the ethical and moral failures that occurred during the events. Number 2. Wanda and Pietro's relationship. In the Ultimate X-Men series, the relationship between Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, and Pietro Maximoff, Quicksilver, was depicted in a manner that suggested a romantic dimension. In contrast to their depiction as siblings, with a protective bond in the main Marvel universe, the Ultimate series presented interactions between the characters that included physical closeness, intimate gestures, and possessive behavior. These interactions implied a romantic or sexualized connection between the two. The narrative portrayed these dynamics repeatedly, including scenes in which Pietro displayed jealousy over Wanda's interactions with other characters. Within the story, other characters generally did not react to this behavior as unusual or inappropriate. The depiction was framed in part as a reflection of the twins' shared trauma, including their experiences under Magneto's control, though the storyline did not provide extensive exploration of psychological consequences. The Ultimate series' portrayal of Wanda and Pietro represents a significant departure from their traditional characterization, presenting a controversial and widely debated interpretation of the sibling relationship. Number 3. Black Frank Castle. In the Punisher series, a storyline titled The Final Days depicted Frank Castle undergoing facial reconstruction after being imprisoned and disfigured by his enemies, including Jigsaw. During the procedure, Castle's appearance was altered to include darker skin, resulting in a temporary change to his racial identity. This change was presented as permanent within the context of the storyline and was not intended as a disguise or camouflage. The alteration was brief and concluded within a few issues, after which Castle's original appearance was restored without narrative explanation or lasting consequences. The storyline also included connections to other characters, such as Luke Cage, but did not provide further exploration of Castle's perspective on the change or its implications. The arc remains a unique and short-lived episode in the character's history, with the altered appearance not revisited in subsequent stories. Number 4. The Clone Saga. The Clone Saga was a major storyline in the Spider-Man titles that focused on the re-emergence of a clone of Peter Parker named Ben Reilly. The story explored the possibility that Peter Parker, the Spider-Man, followed by readers for years, might not be the original. Initially intended to streamline Peter's life, the storyline proposed that Ben Reilly could assume the role of Spider-Man, while Peter retired and pursued a life with Mary Jane Watson. The saga expanded significantly beyond its original scope, encompassing multiple Spider-Man series over an extended period. New characters and villains, including Kane and Judas Traveler, were introduced, and numerous subplots and additional clones appeared. Frequent shifts in the narrative and retroactive changes complicated the storyline, resulting in confusion regarding character identities and continuity. Ben Reilly's portrayal as a college-aged Spider-Man offered a grounded, street-level perspective and was well received by many readers. However, the extended length of the storyline and the introduction of multiple clones diminished the emotional impact of key events. Ultimately, the storyline revealed that Peter Parker was the original Spider-Man, resolving the central conflict regarding his identity. While the original run of the Clone Saga is often cited as an example of the challenges of executing large-scale continuity changes, Ben Reilly has remained a recurring character in Spider-Man stories and has been positively received in subsequent appearances. Number 5. The Starfox Allegations. Starfox, also known as Eros of Titan, possesses the ability to influence the pleasure centers of the human brain, allowing him to affect emotions, mood, and attraction. This power has been depicted as a central aspect of his personality and interactions with others. In She-Hulk issue 6, Starfox is brought to trial after a woman accuses him of using his abilities to manipulate her during an intimate encounter without her informed consent. The case raises questions about the ethical use of powers that can override free will and whether such influence influence constitutes sexual assault. She-Hulk serves as Starfox's legal representative during the trial. Throughout the proceedings, she examines the broader implications of Starfox's abilities, including whether prior interactions may have involved unintentional manipulation. The storyline focuses on accountability and consent, rather than presenting Starfox as inherently villainous. By the conclusion of the storyline, Starfox is removed from the narrative. The character is neither formally exonerated nor punished, leaving the situation unresolved. The arc is noted for its exploration of the moral and legal ramifications of powers that can influence consent. Number 6. Miles Morales' introduction. In Ultimate Fallout, following the death of Peter Parker in the Ultimate Universe, Miles Morales is introduced as a new Spider-Man. Miles is an Afro-Latino teenager from Brooklyn who gains powers similar to those of Peter Parker. His origin story emphasizes his personal struggles and the responsibilities of his abilities. Miles is depicted as hesitant to embrace his powers at first, navigating the challenges of adolescence, family expectations, and the moral obligations of being a hero. The narrative highlights his efforts to emulate Peter Parker's example while establishing his own identity. Miles's character development includes interactions with his family and community, illustrating the balance between everyday life and superhero responsibilities. Over time, he appears in multiple comic series, crossover events, and becomes integrated into the broader Marvel universe. The character's popularity expanded further with the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse animated film, which brought Miles to a wider audience and solidified his presence as a significant Spider-Man within Marvel media. Miles Morales continues to be featured in comics, films, and other media as an established Spider-Man character. Number 7. Tony Stark's betrayal. In the Avengers: The Crossing storyline, it is revealed that Tony Stark, Iron Man, had been manipulated by Kang the Conqueror and acted as a sleeper agent for him over an extended period. The story presents this as an actual betrayal by Stark, rather than a clone, illusion, or temporary lapse in judgment. The narrative suggests that Kang influenced Stark's actions in ways that affected the Avengers' operations, reframing past events in his history as intentional sabotage. To address the resulting complications, the storyline concludes with Tony Stark's death and the Avengers recruiting a teenage version of him from the past to replace him on the team. This younger Iron Man participates in missions to rectify the consequences of actions he had not personally undertaken. Subsequent storylines, including Onslaught and Avengers Forever, restore the adult Tony Stark and remove the manipulated version from continuity. The events of The Crossing are generally treated as a self-contained arc that was later superseded, returning Stark to his established role within the Avengers. Number 8. Chuck Austen's X-Men run. In 2002, Chuck Austen became the writer for Uncanny X-Men, inheriting a series with extensive history and established characters. His run introduced significant changes to characterizations, backstories, and relationships, many of which deviated from prior continuity. During this period, Angel was depicted with altered personality traits and engaged in a controversial romantic encounter with Husk. Nightcrawler's backstory was revised to portray him as the son of a demon and affiliated with a magical cult, replacing earlier established lore. Austen also included early attempts at exploring the sexual orientation of characters such as Iceman and Northstar, though these storylines were presented in a manner that differed from later canonical portrayals. Several new characters were introduced, including Sammy, a student with aquatic features, and Zorn, whose storyline involved multiple retcons and complex interactions with existing characters. Many of these narratives were discontinued or modified in subsequent publications. While some elements, such as Juggernaut's gradual redemption arc, continued into later stories, the majority of Austen's changes were later reversed or ignored. His tenure is noted for its extensive revisions to character histories and dynamics, as well as for the controversy and mixed reception it generated among readers. Number 9. Hulk Incest. In the Old Man Logan storyline set in a dystopian alternate future, the west coast of the United States is controlled by a group known as the Hulk Gang. This clan is depicted as descendants of Bruce Banner, and in the narrative includes offspring resulting from his familial relationships, including with Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk. The Hulk Gang is portrayed as violent, unstable, and antagonistic, contributing to the post-apocalyptic setting and serving as key obstacles for Wolverine. Their actions, including attacks on Logan's family, drive significant portions of the storyline and motivate Wolverine's path of retaliation. This subplot represents a controversial aspect of the story, presenting an extreme depiction of the Hulk family within an alternate universe. While Old Man Logan is widely recognized for its storytelling and influence on the character of Wolverine, the portrayal of the Hulk Gang and their origins is noted as a disturbing element within the narrative. Number 10. Wolverine hitting on a minor. In Ultimate Spider-Man, a body swap storyline features Peter Parker and Wolverine accidentally exchanging bodies. The narrative explores the challenges each character faces while inhabiting the other's body, including Peter adjusting to Wolverine's superhuman abilities and Wolverine navigating life as a teenage student. After the body swap is reversed, a brief scene suggests that Wolverine, while in Peter Parker's body, made an inappropriate advance toward Mary Jane Watson, who is depicted as a minor. The scene implies non-consensual behavior without depicting it directly. This sequence has been noted for its controversial content, as it depicts an adult character in the body of a teenager attempting a romantic or sexual advance toward another minor, which contrasts with the story's otherwise comedic premise. Number 11. Shang-Chi's backstory. Shang-Chi was introduced in the 1970s as a martial artist superhero, created during a period when Kung Fu was popular in global media. His original backstory depicted him as the son of Fu Manchu, a character from early 20th century fiction widely recognized as a racist caricature of East Asians. In the comics, Shang-Chi's narratives centered on his struggle to oppose his father's criminal empire while training in martial arts. Early depictions included visual and narrative elements drawing on stereotypical and exoticized representations of East Asian culture, including mystical temples, martial arts masters, and villainous characters with exaggerated features. These elements were consistent with conventions in popular media of the time, but have since been criticized for their reliance on racial stereotypes. Subsequent revisions removed the Fu Manchu association, renaming Shang-Chi's father, and reorienting his backstory around family conflict, personal honor, and character development rather than racialized tropes. Modern portrayals emphasize Shang-Chi's relationships, his personal struggles, and his role within the wider Marvel universe. Adaptations, including the 2021 film, further explore themes of identity and generational legacy, presenting Shang-Chi as a fully developed character rather than a product of cultural stereotypes. Number 12. Cyclops and Emma Frost by Jean Grey's Grave. In New X-Men during the early 2000s, Scott Summers, Cyclops, begins a romantic relationship with Emma Frost following the death of Jean Grey. Their relationship develops through shared emotional and psychic interactions, including counseling sessions with Frost, which gradually evolve into a romantic connection. A notable early moment in their relationship occurs at the site of Jean Grey's grave, where Cyclops and Frost engage in an intimate encounter. The scene takes place in the immediate aftermath of Jean's death and is depicted as part of Cyclops' struggle with grief and emotional recovery. While the series explores themes of mourning, trauma, and the complexities of human relationships, this particular depiction has been recognized as a controversial and striking narrative choice. Cyclops and Frost's relationship continues in subsequent storylines, eventually becoming a significant and long-running dynamic within the X-Men series. Number 13. Tony's armor falls in love with him. In the early 2000s, the Iron Man storylines, My Own Worst Enemy and Blood Brothers depict an armor of Tony Stark becoming self-aware after the installation of a new artificial intelligence system. The armor gains sentience, develops independent thought, and exhibits behaviors suggesting attachment and protective obsession towards Stark. As the armor's sentience progresses, it begins to override Stark's commands during combat situations, including engagements with adversaries such as Whiplash. The armor also perceives Stark's personal relationships as threats and acts to maintain exclusive control over him, at one point isolating him on a deserted island. The narrative concludes with a confrontation in which Tony suffers a heart attack, and the armor intervenes by transferring a component of its internal systems into Stark to sustain his life, effectively sacrificing itself. The storyline explores themes of artificial intelligence, autonomy, and the consequences of human-machine interaction, though its depiction is marked by dramatic and extreme narrative elements. Number 14. Peter Parker's Radioactive Semen. In the Spider-Man Reign miniseries, set in a dystopian future, Peter Parker is depicted as an older, retired Spider-Man mourning the death of Mary Jane Watson. Within the storyline, it is revealed that Mary Jane died from cancer, which the narrative attributes to long-term exposure to Peter Parker's radioactive physiology. The story presents Peter experiencing intense guilt over this outcome, highlighting the personal consequences of his superhero abilities on those closest to him. The series explores themes of loss, responsibility, and the toll of heroism in a grim future setting. While the storyline contains dark and dramatic elements consistent with its dystopian tone, the specific cause of Mary Jane's illness is a controversial and unusual aspect that has attracted significant attention among readers. The series otherwise emphasizes Peter Parker's emotional struggle and the societal conditions of the world he inhabits. Number 15. Laura Kinney's origin. Laura Kinney, also known as X-23, was introduced as a teenage clone of Wolverine. In her initial comic appearances, she escapes from the Weapon X program that created her and is shown navigating the consequences of her conditioning and violent upbringing. Early storylines depicted her in situations suggesting exploitation by criminal elements, including a period in which she is coerced into working under the control of a pimp named Zebra Daddy. The narrative implied that she was placed in dangerous scenarios due to her healing factor, though explicit content was not depicted. These elements highlighted the ongoing trauma resulting from her creation and upbringing. Subsequent writers revised Laura's origin and early experiences to focus on her personal growth, her relationship with Wolverine, and her development as a hero. Later storylines emphasize her struggle with identity, the reclaiming of her autonomy, and her eventual role as a central figure among the X-Men. The earlier depiction of exploitation is largely de-emphasized in modern portrayals. Number 16. Hank Pym's domestic abuse. Hank Pym, also known as Ant-Man, is depicted in Avengers issue 213 as striking his wife, Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, during a confrontation. At the time, Pym was experiencing a mental breakdown while operating as his Yellow Jacket persona and had constructed a robot to attack the Avengers as part of a plan to regain recognition as a hero. When Janet confronted him about his actions, Pym physically struck her. The scene has been noted for its depiction of domestic violence and is frequently cited in discussions of the character's complex history. The artist later indicated that the panel may have been the result of a misinterpretation of the script, in which Pym was intended to gesture aggressively rather than deliver a deliberate blow, but the depiction was presented as a strike. Subsequent storylines reference the incident, establishing it as a notable aspect of Pym's character history. The event contributes to the portrayal of Pym as a deeply flawed and psychologically complex character, highlighting both his achievements and his personal failings.